So let's try this one more time, guys. How's it going? Uh, Welcome back to the final round. I don't know if this is going to keep lasting. I'm trying to get this, this recording to work. I don't know if it's going to work, but looks like we're recording now. Welcome back, guys, to the final round. I'm Jake. I don't know what my recording was doing earlier. It's really doing bad right now. What is up with this shit? I don't get it. I don't understand. Okay. Are we good? Is it working? Okay. Ignore that first part. We're just going to keep recording and hope this still works. So, today we're going to do a fighter profile on this guy. This guy, Gerry Cooney. I was recording earlier and I literally didn't know it wasn't recording, so I spoke about his whole career and the start of it. Basically, I'll just kind of sum up what I basically said. Gerry Cooney is viewed as one of the typical great way hopes that you find in boxing, and he was one of the more successful ones, in the time. And I spoke about that in the video that you won't see. That the first great white hero was I think the last one was really Jack Dempsey. And there's been a search for the next, as they say, the next great way hope. It's been this cliche going on for almost 100 years now. There's been several guys. Dwayne Bobbitt was one guy. Tommy Morrison was one guy. Gerry Cooney is probably the most successful of them. Even though Tommy Morrison won a portion of the heavyweight title, he never really had. He was big, but I don't think he ever really truly had the renown of Gerry Cooney. In terms of looking back on it in the time. So, in terms of Gerry Cooney, what can you say? But, most guys say, oh, great way to hope. Oh, he must have been a hype job, right? He wasn't really hyped. He was good. He was a good fighter. He was, he was a good, strong puncher. There was no doubt about that. That's what Gerry Cooney was. He was he was a very good puncher. He was strong. He had a sharp. He had a really good left hook. Good body work, decent jab. He was a good fighter. Wasn't very defensively viable, and that got exposed in the fights he lost. So he started his career in 1977, slowly kind of building up his way to contention like most guys do, and he just kind of kept on going. And what's going on here? Something happened. Something's going on. What's going on? Oh my god! Come on! I don't know what happened there, but okay, we're just gonna keep on doing this. Okay, I'm not stopping the recording now. Too late. I've already recorded this enough. I'm not doing this. Okay, so back to the video. I'm not gonna edit this either. I'm just gonna leave it in. I don't care. Yeah, she started his career in 1977, and he kind of, he kind of built up his record here and there, getting decent wins, wasn't making massive noise. And then he sort of got to a point in his career where he, I believe around 1979 was when he started to step up a little bit in competition. Not much, but a little bit. Really, he never really had like any, massive wins on his dossier that would say, "Oh, he's ready for the big time." And I think the biggest fight he had in his young career, and I think if he was 82 in 1982, if he was 25, then then he was 20 years old when he made his debut. So he's pretty, in 1980s, he's only 23 years old. That's a year younger than I am. He's pretty young, if boxers go. So, what's going on? Why am I lagging again? Okay, we're going to slow it down. Let's hope this thing works. All right, come on. Let's get back on track recording. Okay. We're starting to lag again. We're starting to do this again where it's lagging. I don't know why. It's OBS. Okay. Yeah. Nah. Not okay. We're not doing good right now. This is not good. It's probably BoxRec. BoxRec is good, but I needed to look at the record. So no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna hold on. This is gonna work. Still working now. Probably very faded on my screen. Is it? All right. And what we're gonna do? We're gonna go. We're gonna go video capture. Um, we're gonna go to BoxRec. We're gonna do that. All right. So as you can see here, he kind of, he started his career, with some, decent wins here and there, and then he really got into a good starting when he beat guys like Jonathan Dennis, Leroy Boone, and then he had a big fight against Jimmy Young. Now this is not the Jimmy Young that beat George Foreman. This is Jimmy Young that suffered losses. He's 25-92, but he's still a good fighter. It was a cut. He stopped him after round 4. And then he fought Ron Lyle. Now, this is many years after Ron Lyle's, absolute war with George Foreman. He got him out of there in a round. But this was not a Ron Lyle that, was, was truly anything. So I'm going to go back to the camera, see if it's still working now. Okay, so in about the time, I think in 1981, he was 24 years old, looking good. He gets a fight with Kenny Norton. Now, I will make a profile about Kenny Norton, but he was a very good fighter in his time as well. Very, very good, very, very skillful. Gave Ali a tough, obviously Foreman blasted him out, but really no one else had blasted Kenny Norton out that badly. And in 1981, Kenny Norton, I believe, was at least in his mid 30s. At least he was in his mid 30s. And the fight was, it was at Madison Square Garden, and Cooney went in there, and he blasted the crap out of him in one round. About 54 seconds into the round, and but this was a highly faded Kenny Norton. I think everyone, including a bunch of people in boxing, including myself, the prevailing thought is that if Cooney had fought Kenny Norton in 73 or 74, he probably would have lost. But he beat him this night, and these three, these big wins, Jimmy Young, Ron Lyle, and Kenny Norton, and all those guys were faded from what they were in the mid 70s. If Gerry Cooney's fighting these guys in 1975, different story, I think. But all three guys had been through a lot of wars. In the 5 or so years since the mid 70s, and they were just not the same guys, and that's why it was the perfect fights for Cooney. He never really fought anyone in their prime, a contender like him on his way up. He did a typical like Grey Hope thing, fight 3. He in some ways almost established a prototype, or not prototype, a stereotype in which you give a guy a couple fights, 2 or 3 fights against faded guys, gets in there and he wins. And he got 3 good, he got 3 good finishes, and set him up to fight Larry Holmes in 1982. And this was really this was a obviously big fight. I think Cooney going in was, I forgot what his record would have been. He would have been, let's take a look. I think he would have been 25-0. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think he would have been 25-0. Would have been his record, I think. And Larry Holmes was 39-0. He had beaten Ali. He had pretty much beaten everybody. And it was at Omni Outdoor Arena in Caesar's Palace. And so the fight starts. Mills Lane, which I never understood how Mills Lane was a small guy. He was like 5'5", and he's refereeing big heavyweights. And there's a lot of reasons why I don't see small guys ref heavyweight fights in the UFC or even in boxing anymore because they just can't take it. They're just not. They're just not those kind of guys. So, yeah. So the fight starts, and Cooney looks good. His jab's pretty. And Larry Holmes' jab has been viewed for many many years as being probably the best jab in the history of the heavyweight divisions. Not gonna lie, Jesus Christ, this video has been terrible so far. Um, and Cooney wasn't like having a better jab. He wasn't winning the battle of jabs, but he was putting up a decent jab in response to Larry's amazing jab. And he landed a couple good left hooks. And even though most of the fight, Larry Holmes kind of dominated, there were a couple moments in round 3. Cooney caught him with a good left. Round 5 and 6, I think, were the only rounds that Cooney really won, in my opinion. And but it wasn't like Holmes was blowing him out, but it was definitely winning. And there are people saying, "Oh, Cooney." Everyone's saying that Cooney's gonna go in there and blast out, because the thought was, "Oh, he blasted out Kenny Norton, he blasted out Ron Lyle, he blasted out Jimmy Young." Different guys. I think Larry Holmes would. I think in their prime, I think Larry would have beaten all those guys in his prime. I mean, Larry beat Kenny Norton in 1978 for the IBF title, and he beat him in a 15-round fight, and he beat him by like a war, and he survived. So, Larry had to prove himself at the level. Gerry Cooney hadn't, and he gets in there, and he gets and then by around like 6, 7, 8, he starts to get hit up. He starts to get pretty, battered and bruised, and throughout the fight, he was, he did lose 3 points for low blows, which didn't help him because he was winning some rounds here and there, but was still competitive for sure. I think Larry was winning. And then at the end of the day, I think around maybe 10 or 11, I think around maybe around 10 or 11, started to get into a different pace. And I think Gerry started to wilt a little bit, and he hadn't really been in the distance that long, and stamina was kind of up there, and he was getting cracked, and then around 13 it was kind of over. Larry finished it. It's a pretty good finish. I go watch it if I were you guys. Very very good finish, and it was. But the fact that he went 13 rounds with Larry Holmes, a lot of people gave him the credit for that, and rightfully so. He had earned the credit for going 13 rounds with Larry Holmes. There were a lot of guys who I think were even better than Cooney that didn't go 13 rounds with Larry Holmes. So it's all about circumstance and the time you fight. And this was kind of Cooney's. This was his best and only. Looking back on that, was his best and only chance. Everyone assumed that because 25 years old, he was young. Everyone assumed Cooney's young. He'll get back. He'll be dominant down the line. And he just never really recovered from that. He fought a couple of decent guys. He had 3 wins. After the fight with Larry Holmes, it took about 2 years off. Making back in 1984, won 2 fights. Gets back in 86, wins a fight by first round TKO, and then pretty much he kind of just stumbles his way, into the Michael Spinks fight, which was around the time I believe Spinks he had beat Larry Holmes twice, and I think he even stripped the most of his titles. I think Tyson had either 2 or all 3 of the titles that Spinks had gotten from Larry, and I'm trying to think about this. And I think the fight was billed as, you know, for the heavyweight championship, and it was. It was for the overall lineal championship. And if Gerry Cooney had won, it's kind of funny. If Gerry Cooney had won that fight, he would have been fighting Mike Tyson. That would have not gone well. So, you know, I'm sure Gerry wishes that he had won that fight, but better to fight Michael Spinks than fight Mike Tyson, because that would that wouldn't have lasted very long either. That fight went about 5 rounds. Spinks dropped him in the fifth, finished him, and that was pretty much everyone kind of thought the end of Gerry Cooney. You know, he was 28-2, had some success, had beaten some decent guys, but never really, at world level, never got a really chance. He was given credit for fighting Spinks, and the more credit for going 13 rounds with Larry Holmes in the absolute apex of Larry's prime. And he decided to come back about 2.5 years later and take on the 41-year-old George Foreman, who was, I think, 19 fights into his comeback at this point. And it was pretty interesting. I think the fight was billed as the preacher and the puncher, and it's what it was, really. And it was honestly, I've been watching the highlights of that fight. It wasn't a bad fight for as long as it went. It really wasn't that bad of a fight. Cooney went in there, and really I'm the only negative people gave him before the fight. I mean, there are people who thought he was going to win. I mean, not many. Most pundits thought George was just too back in the groove, and Cooney hadn't fought anybody. It's not like he had 3 or 4 fights and then fought Foreman. He had 0 fights. Still coming out the Spinks loss. And he went in there first round, landed a couple good left hooks, and in the second round got caught with a big flurry combination from Foreman, got dropped, and then, I'm going to make a video about the knockout, me watching it and smiling to it, but if you haven't seen this knockout between George Cooney and George Foreman, please go watch it. As he knocks him down, Foreman steps back up and throws a walk-in left uppercut, like bang, hits Cooney in the jaw, and Cooney's kind of like this, and he's like on his feet. Foreman kind of turns back, unleashes a massive right hand, and blows Cooney away. And I'll never forget the call. It was Alex Wallow, and I forgot the other guy. It sounds like it was Dan Dierdorf. I don't think it was Dan Dierdorf, former NFL offensive lineman. I don't think it was Dan Dierdorf, but it sounded like him. As it went to go, oh, this fight's over. I don't think Cooney knows this fight's over. And then the other announcer, he just says, George Foreman blows away Gerry Cooney in the second round. And that's a call that, I watched the highlight when I was young, and I just always remembered it for years. And I'm gonna make a short about it. I did make a clip about it. See if I don't know if I can get the clip posted to the channel. If I can, I'll try. But it's a great knockout. Please go watch it. It's really good. So that was the end of Gerry Cooney's career. And after the fight, Wallow asked him, "Hey, are you gonna do this again? You shouldn't have fought." Blah blah. And Cooney's like, I'll give him a chance. And he was a super nice guy. He's sitting there, his hands like this. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna give my best. My best. I got caught. Is what it is, and that's it for me. And even with training for Gil Clancy, even with trying to get back into it, training somewhere else, it just didn't work for him. It just didn't work, and he is gonna be forever known as a great white hope. He. I don't think he was a hype job. He was a good fighter. Was he hype in terms of great white hope? Yeah. Now I'm gonna show you the magazine cover from, I believe, 1980 or 81. I think after Cooney had either beaten Ron Lyle or beaten... Okay, it's probably after he beat Kane Orton. So here it is. Put on the screen. It says It says contender. Look at this. Oh, why does it always do this? This freaking thing. And it says number one ranked heavyweight Gerry Cooney, and it's like the contender. Dun dun dun. It's like it's trying to build up. And if you look at Gerry Cooney, people like you look at him. He kind of looks like Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa, and people caught on to that in the mid '80s, and that was a part of his not his persona, but his popularity. And he never pushed that, but he was a simple guy, and you know, and at the time, Gerry Cooney, even after he fought Holmes, he was a celebrity, dude. He was a celebrity. He was viewed as the guy who could have been the Great White Hope, and sometimes saw the potential. But as I mentioned, he never really did. But this is a cool poster for Illustrated. Actually, here it is. It is May. What does it say? May. Let's zoom it in. That says May 4th, 1981. Yep. That is May 4th, 1981. Look at that. May 4th, 1981. Crazy, huh? And I believe, go to his record, that was when he beat Norton. Yeah, no, he beat Norton. I believe he beat Norton in May 11th. So this must have been after Ron Lyle. Okay, so that might have been after the Ron Lyle fight. Because it's funny, Cooney never really wore facial hair. He was, as you see here, mostly clean shaven for the vast majority of his career. But sometimes he rocked the stash. I think it made him look better, honestly. But yeah, the number one contender, and he was viewed as this next guy. And listen to me, dude. He had the looks, he had the name, he was white, he had everything you have, and he was a good puncher. Just he didn't have the defense, he didn't have the overall boxing skill, and he was tough, but he didn't have like the best chin. So those reasons are why he never got to the top. And that's why Gerry Cooney will be viewed as one of the great white hopes who just didn't pan out. But I think he listen to me. He was a hard puncher. I mean, George Foreman said after their fight, one of the hardest guys he ever fought. It's even harder than Joe Frazier, which I don't know about that. George's a little old, but still, he was good. He was a good fighter in his time. Just it was never. He was unfortunately never able to really succeed at world level. And he's still a good fighter though. Still someone that was very, very good. So that's gonna do it for this video on fighter profile. More of a quick one this time. This was a total shit show. I don't know what's going on with my damn recording. I was gonna record another fighter profile about Michael Grant, who is, even though they're both similar hype jobs, Cooney proved to be a legit guy, just not there. Michael Grant's a different story. And I think he's a legit guy, but we'll get into that when we get his fighter profile. It's gonna do it tonight, but it's getting late, and I'm not happy with OBS right now. So, hope the video wasn't too terrible. Don't expect many views on this. But this is Gerry Cooney, a fighter profile. Alright, thanks guys, and remember, the greatest fighters always leave it all in the final round. See you guys.